still don't know who the president is going to be. We don't know whether this is going to come down to voting irregularities and what the voter rules actually are in states like Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin. It is an absolute utter mess. Only one thing is perfectly clear. Everybody in the polling industry needs to learn to code. They need to learn to code. Except for Robert Cahaly over at Trafalgar, every single other human in the polling industry needs to immediately be put to work digging ditches so they can meet an actual human outside of New York and LA. The polling errors here were so bad. We're going to get to all of this in just 1 second. First, let us talk about the fact everything is an absolute mess. There are only a few things that are absolutely clear at this point in time. One is that the polls are damned garbage. So I've been bringing you the polls consistently. Okay, I've been bringing you the polls because I don't like operating in the absence of data. My bias in favor of data turns out to be a bias in favor of crap because the data here was crap. Okay, the data here was garbaggio. And it was really garbaggio on the national level. The final Real Clear Politics polling average spread on this election had Joe Biden up 7 points nationally. 7 points nationally. Right now, in the national vote count total, Joe Biden is up by less than 2 points nationally. Less than 2. He's at just over 50 and Trump is at just over 48%. Okay, that is not 7 points. It is certainly not 10 points. I mean, I'm just going to read you some of the polls that were being trotted out the day before the election. The Economist YouGov had Biden up 10 points, 10. IBD-TIPP had Biden up 4, and that was the most optimistic poll for Trump. Reuters had Biden up 7, CNBC had Biden up 10, Quinnipiac had Biden up 11, NBC News Wall Street Journal had Biden up 10. Okay, the gap is 2. 2. When you blow it that badly on the national polling, no one should ever trust you again. All these jackasses need to learn to code, like right now. And yeah, incompetence bothers me. It really, really does. Okay, how about the battleground states? So the battleground states were fairly wildly off as well. In the battleground states, in the Real Clear Politics polling average, which was more favorable to Trump than, for example, the 538 polling average. In the Real Clear Politics polling average, they had Trump down in Florida by 0.9. Trump will end up winning that state by 3%. So not particularly close in Florida. Once again, they blew it in Florida. In North Carolina, the Real Clear Politics polling average had Trump up by 0.2. Right now, North Carolina, with 95% reporting, has Trump up by about 2 points, 1.5, 2 points. The Real Clear Politics polling average in Arizona had Biden winning that state slim. It looks like that may hold up. In Wisconsin, here's a massive polling error in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, the Real Clear Politics polling average had Biden up nearly 7 points in Wisconsin. Nearly 7 in Wisconsin. Right now, Biden is up by less than a point in Wisconsin. He's up by about 20,000 votes total in Wisconsin. That is a 6-point polling error. In Florida, you are looking at a 5-point polling error. In the national numbers, you are looking at a minimum 5-point polling error. In many of these polls, an 8 or 9-point polling error. Polling is chicken and trail reading. These people don't know what the hell they are doing. They don't know how to poll for Trump's coalition. They don't know how to poll people who are not college-educated white people. They don't know how to poll people who are not picking up the phone. All of your questions about polls were totally justified. Now, to be fair to myself, I did say I am skeptical that it is as far apart as the polls were suggesting. And I did say yesterday that Trump could easily win this thing without the polls being totally wrong on the state level. And that's true. All of these margin of error states, many of them remained margin of error. Okay, but something is deeply wrong in the polling industry. Something is deeply wrong in our media industry. They were suggesting that Joe Biden could hide in his basement and run away with this thing. This is not a runaway under any circumstances. Not only is it not a runaway, these aren't even the worst polling errors. The worst polling errors are not on the heavily polled Trump-Biden race. The worst polling errors were all of the polling errors in the Senate. There, they just blew it. And I will pat myself on the back for my prediction on the Senate. I did say I thought the Republicans would likely hold the Senate. So, a mess for pollsters today, an absolute mess. And a big night for Republicans, by the way. If you're a Republican, regardless of how this turns out with Trump, because that's still up in the air and he could still win this thing depending on how those late votes are counted, depending on whether there are lawsuits, right? This is still very much up in the air. Regardless of that, if you're a Republican or a conservative, you should feel very good moving forward. This was supposed to be a year like 2018 where Democrats walked away with this thing, where it was a blue tidal wave washing away all in its path, where Joe Biden was going to win by 10 points nationally. He was going to carry 350 electoral votes, where Democrats were going to walk away with the Senate, where they were going to then nuke the filibuster and then use it to cram through states and cram through court packing. None of that's going to happen now. Senator Mitch McConnell is going to be in charge of the Senate majority in all likelihood at this point, which is a devastating blow to the Democrats.
Says pollsters, like the news media, are just another propaganda arm of the Democrats. This is true, but it's not true exactly in the way that people might think. The pollsters got this election completely wrong. There is no reason to listen to these pollsters anymore. But pollsters have gotten other elections right, and I'm not saying they're awful, terrible people or anything. I'm not even saying they set out to lie. Maybe some of them do, but others don't. The reason that the polls are wrong, the reason that the polls are part of the same propaganda wing as the Democrats, is because they're part of the whole progressive system. When progressivism rose up about a century ago, a little more than a century ago now, I guess, it rose up with the modern university and the social sciences and public opinion polling and statistics itself referring to the state, meaning matters of the state, referring to the modern state, the administrative state, the progressive state. All of these things are part of the same system. And so when the system is working very well, they all kind of work well together. But when that system stops reflecting reality, when that system starts to break down, then the polling starts to break down too. And I think we are seeing that system begin to crumble. This election is in many ways an attack, that system, that establishment striking back, trying to preserve itself after Donald Trump swung a sledgehammer into it. And that might prevail. Joe Biden, who is the system, he is just the face, the avatar of the system, he may prevail for a while. I don't know, maybe for a long while. But he may not. And I'm very glad that President Trump is fighting back about that. There is so much talk going on. There's so much chatter about what's happening in the individual states and in the individual precincts. And if you want to talk very well, especially to your friends in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, you got to get Pure Talk USA.